Yo, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Noah Osborne. Appreciate you tuning in, and make sure you like and subscribe. In this video, I'm going to be going over with you my predictions of the next generation PlayStation 5 and Xbox consoles. And I'm going to show you how I come up with the numbers and everything, but this is what I think, what we're looking at as far as the next gen systems. Now, don't shoot me. Let me go ahead and give you my disclaimer. Could be wrong, could be right. Just my assumption, just my prediction, just looking at, the direction the industry is headed as far as PC, and kind of comparing that to console, looking at things we've seen in the past, and this is where I drop the specs of what the next gen systems might look like. Again, let me say that again. This is what the next gen consoles might look like. So don't throw the stones at me if I'm way off, all right? But let's go over the PlayStation 5 first. Now, I'm gonna assume that PlayStation 5 is gonna be the weakest of the consoles, and the only reason I'm saying that is because Phil Spencer said he doesn't see Microsoft being behind again when it comes to performance and power of an Xbox console compared to the competition. So with that being said, I'm taking that as the gospel truth. That don't mean that's the way it's gonna be, and I understand that, but let's just assume that it is. So at PlayStation 5, now I believe both consoles are gonna stick with the APU, an accelerated processing unit. That just means that it's a system on a chip. The GPU and the CPU are all on one chip. The whole system's on the chip, actually. One chip. Memory, everything is on that one chip. The reason that is because you get the best efficiency that way. You get less heat, less power consumption, and these parts are going to be in a small box. So we want those chips to generate as less heat as possible and use up as less electricity and less power. But let's talk about the CPU. All right, I really believe Sony and Microsoft are going to step away from the Jaguar CPU. That's why I can see Ryzen cores inside the next gen system. I guess it's going to be either a hyper-threaded quad core or an 8-core Ryzen CPU. And I believe the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, well, whatever the next name of the Xbox is, I believe they're going to be clocked at about 2.8 or at max 3 gigahertz for the CPU. And I'm explaining to you how I get that number. Now, one thing about computer chips, the smaller you can make it, the more efficient it is. The quicker electricity can travel through those chips because they're smaller. So every time enough electricity travels around, it's called a cycle, and that's measured in hertz. So just to give you a little information, the Xbox One and the OG PS4, they're built on a 20 nanometer fabrication process. 20 nanometers, both of the OG system, right? So the smaller the better, remember? So we went down from 20 to 16 when we moved to the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. So that's a 4 nanometer difference, right? And what we were able to see was about a 30% increase. About a 25 to 30% increase, moving from 1.75 on the Xbox One S to 2.3 gigahertz moving to the Xbox One X. So that's about a 25 to 30% increase. So with that, I'm assuming that the next gen consoles are going to be at max 12 nanometers GPUs, Vega based. So with that being said, if Sony and Microsoft are aiming for the same heat and power consumption with the next consoles, I think we're looking at another 25 to 30% increase, and that will put us at about 2.8 to 2.8 gigahertz, between 2.8 gigahertz and 3 gigahertz clock speed. And I really can't see AMD, making any different CPU between the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox. I mean, it makes it easier on the devs if they're dealing with the same CPU specs. Might be a couple hundred hertz difference in both CPUs, but if one's quad core hyper threaded, I'm pretty sure the other one will be, and vice versa. If one has 8 cores, the other have 8 cores. I can't see Sony and Microsoft having 2 different configurations like that. Hey, but again, I could be wrong because this is all speculation. So we're looking at about 2.8, 3 gigahertz Ryzen CPU cores. I think the Ryzen technology is going to be on the based on what we have now. I'm predicting a 2020 release for the PlayStation 5, 2021 release for the next Xbox. So that's about 3 years from now, 2 to 3 years from now. So I'm thinking we're going to have pretty close to what's top of the line this year in 2018. That's what we're going to see be the base specs for the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox, but with some customization and some minor differences. We still can't rev up the clock speed too high because we still have to compensate for heat, but I think with that 12 nanometers, 2.8, 3 gigahertz would be pretty good. GPU, the same thing, Vega based. Right now, AMD has a 56 core and a 64 core. So just like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, I can see them cutting off 4 of those cores just for yield purposes. And assuming the PlayStation 5 is the weaker of the consoles, I think we're looking at 52 cores. And with the Xbox One X, I think we're looking at 60 cores. So there's going to be an 8-core difference between both consoles. And the clock speed, I think we're looking at anywhere between 1.3 gigahertz and 1.5 clock speed on the GPU. And that's for for both and either or consoles. Between those specs, if we took the 1.35 and the 1.5 gigahertz and multiplied that by the speculated 52 cores, that gets us to about 8.9, between 8.9 and 9.9 teraflops. And on the next Xbox One, we take that 1.35 and that 1.5 and multiply that by the 60 cores. That gives us, anywhere between 10.3 teraflops and 11.5. And how I get that number is I take so for example, there's 60 cores. 60 cores, and each core has 64 shaders, and the 64 shaders can do 2 operations at once, and then you multiply that by the clock speed, and that's how you get your calculation in flops. In case you want to do the math and check behind me, this is how you calculate teraflops. You take the total amount of cores. Each core has 64 shaders, right? Each shader can do 2 operations at once, in a cycle, right? So that's the clock speed times the amount of cores times 64 times 2, and that's how you get the total amount of teraflops. Next, we're gonna look at the ROPs. The ROPs are your rasterizers. They're pretty much, once everything is calculated, they render the stuff on screen, and that really determines how many pixels the consoles can push at one time. And right now, the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, they actually both max out at 32 ROPs. The base Xbox One only has 16. Now I think the PlayStation 5 will have between 48 ROPs and 64. And the new Xbox is going to have 64 ROPs, especially if it has 60 cores. I can't see it going less than 64. Again, this is just speculation. Now let's talk about memory. Alright, so there's rumor, or I'm not even gonna say rumor. I mean, we know it's coming, but you know, the HBM 3.0 and GDDR6 memory is expected to release sometime in 2019. But you know, normally these things get delayed, especially when you're dealing with new technology. You have to work out the kinks. So I'm gonna take, you know, the safe route and bet on GDDR, either GDDR5X or HBM2. You're gonna get about the same performance out the two. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the GDDR5X is cheaper. So I strongly believe they're gonna go with the GDDR5X. And I think they top out at like 512 gigabits per second as far as memory bandwidth. I can see us getting 484. You know, that's faster than what the Xbox One X offers at was it 382. So we're gonna get over 100 gigabits as far as bandwidth, 100 more gigabit, and it'll be you know, a faster type memory, GDDR5X. So yeah, 484 gigabits per second, and I can't imagine us getting any less than 16 gigabytes of memory, and that goes for both systems. You know, with these specs, I'm thinking we're gonna get the same power consumption, and it's gonna generate the same heat, maybe a slight bit higher, because you know those cycles, running a lot of clock cycles with those high clock speeds. So even with the smaller chip, it may still build more heat compared to what we're used to now, but it shouldn't be much of a difference. I'm pretty sure we'll have improvements in ventilation technology and system cooling, but you know, I really can't wait. Now the most important part, these are the features that I think we're gonna get out of the next gen consoles. Yeah, could be wrong, could be right, but with a much better CPU, I don't see why we won't be able to hit 4K 60. I think that's going to be standard in most games. I actually think that developers are going to provide the option, kind of like we have with the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. You may have like an option to play games at 4K 60, or you might have like a 1080p or 1440p running at 120 hertz or 144 hertz. I think they're also going to support ultra wide monitors too. You know, Sony and Microsoft both stated that they're trying to stop their fan base from moving to PC. So it sounds like they want to compete with what the PC is providing. And you're gonna have to be able to provide an option to gamers that play on high refresh monitors. You want them to be able to take advantage of the monitor that they have without, you know, having to go out and buy a PC. I'm thinking as far as like streaming, game streaming, I think 1440p 60 is going to be the standard. That's pretty much what you get on NVIDIA cards. They have that feature. It allows you to stream. I think the max resolution is 1440p, and I don't see why that wouldn't make it into the next gen consoles. Ultra widescreen support, I think, is going to be supported by both consoles. So we got ultra widescreen, the 1440p streaming, 60 frames per second is going to be the standard for most games. And you know, as time goes on, as the game start to advance, we might see much more graphical detail and the frame rate hitting 30, because you know, devs are always going to take advantage of the graphical power. So I can see, you know, even with the powerful as the console is, there's going to be some developers that just want to fully tap into that power and just give us the most beautiful and exotic world that we can't get anywhere else, and they're going to push the console to the limit. But that may be later in the life cycle. still think we're gonna have physical medium. I can see a 4K Blu-ray player on both consoles. Yeah, and I think that's about it. As far as audio, Dolby Atmos and Dolby Surround Sound will be compatible on both devices. Both devices, I don't see why neither one would have backwards compatibility with the current gen system. Pretty sure there'll be the Xbox platform will be able to play Xbox 360 games and OG games, at least the ones that are currently compatible. But yeah, man, it's exciting, man. This is just speculation. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comment section. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. I appreciate it. And y'all have a nice day. Peace out.